We have a microphone turned on. Electronics are working. And when there are eyeglasses on, then I can read. I'm not literate without them. There we go. And yes, I'm wearing my hat this week. It's the right week to wear it. So welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Sonoma Climate Action Commission. Today's date, November 8th, 2023. It's an agendized meeting, and we'll proceed with the agenda. Call to order. I see an entire group of commissioners, and thank you for all being here. And we will do next the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, through the chair, we should do a roll call vote.
Roll call
for the
first.
record.
Yes, sir, Matthew.
Yep.
Thank you. And you'll take care of that.
Yes.
Please.
Chair Morrell.
Here.
Vice Chair Conlon.
Here.
Commissioner Heinerman.
Here.
Commissioner Nickel.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Here.
And Youth Member Clemens.
Here.
Thank you.
And the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you all. And now, you've already done a roll call, I believe. It appears in the different order here on the agenda. So the next is the approval of the agenda. Fellow commissioners, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second for said motion?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion about the approval of tonight's agenda as presented? Seeing none, hearing none, it is approved. We're on. Agenda item 1, comments from the public. I get to read this important paragraph so that we're clear with everyone, including Matt Metzger. Good evening, sir. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. It's recommended you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Under state law, unless otherwise permitted under the Ralph M. Brown Act, the merits of the matters presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the Climate Action Commission at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to make comments at the time that the item comes up for CAC consideration this evening. Upon being acknowledged by the chair, please step to the podium, speak into the microphone, and begin by spelling your name. Public comment this evening. Matthew, anything from the world at large?
No, there are no hands raised on Zoom.
All right. Is there any public comments? I'm not seeing any hands or people at the microphone. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Public comment period is now closed. Next is our consent calendar for this evening. The minutes from the previous August 9th, 2023 meeting of the Climate Action Commission of the City of Sonoma. The 8/9/23 minutes. Is there any discussion or concern with the minutes? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to accept and approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second for said motion?
I second.
I hear a motion and a second. I believe it's time for a roll call vote. Any discussion? No. Now a roll call vote.
Commissioner Heinerman.
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel.
Aye.
Commissioner Ward.
Aye.
Vice Chair Conlon.
Yes.
And Chair Morrell.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Approved. We now move to agenda item 3, the regular calendar for this evening, which we have one major item, and an important item, I must say, in terms of moving this city forward with its efforts on climate. Discussion, consideration, and possible action to recommend acceptance of the Climate Action Strategies document by the City Council. I believe first will be a staff report that presents this document to us. Travis? Jennifer?
Good evening, Commissioner Morrell and fellow commissioners. Tonight, members of the Climate Commission will consider recommending the adoption of the Sonoma's climate action strategies by the City Council. As outlined in tonight's meeting agenda packet, on November 2nd, 2020, the City Council adopted a climate emergency resolution. This resolution set a target of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 for government operations and for the community itself. In a subsequent action in April 2022, the City Council created the Climate Action Commission to replace the Community Services and Environment Commission and the Joint Climate Action Subcommittee. The Climate Action Committee, the CAC, Climate Action Commission, acts in an advisory capacity to the City Council pertaining to the development, updating, implementation, and communication of the city's climate action plan. On February 8th, 2023, staff presented the draft climate action plan to the Commission. At this meeting, the CAC reviewed the plan and developed a preliminary list of priority climate actions specifically for funding consideration during the annual budget review process. At the August 9th, 2023 meeting, the CAC provided comments and finalized its list of priority climate actions that were incorporated into the newly renamed Climate Action Strategies document. In September of this year, staff published the public draft of the revised Climate Action Strategies and opened a written public comment period that ended on October 20th, 2023. The city received 7 written comments, which are contained in tonight's agenda packet. On October 13th, the Climate Action Strategies community meeting was held right here in the City Council chambers. During the meeting, 8 individuals made public comments. The written and verbal comments were reviewed and incorporated by staff into the revised Climate Action Strategies document as appropriate. Tonight, you have the final draft Climate Action Strategies document for your consideration and potential action. This includes the staff report, and I'd be glad to answer any technical questions.
Thank you, Travis, with the technical. Are there any questions for the sustainability coordinator of the city from our commissioners? Tom?
Thank you. So Travis just said that the comments received that are in the packet tonight, you guys have looked through those and as appropriate included those. So if there's something that was cited by public comments received in any of that outreach work, how are we on the commission to process that? Is it those things were deemed to be not worth adding to the plan at this time, or should we consider ourselves free to discuss some of those public comments tonight before making our recommendation to the City Council?
So that's why they were provided to you. If there are certain instances where public comments were provided that you have a concept or an idea of potential inclusion, we can obviously discuss that. I would recommend, depending on what that is, it would be a small change and you would make it as part of a motion with a modification to the plan. Versus if it's larger and we need to come back for further discussion, we would need to have a special meeting identified and set up for everybody to attend, to help us stay on schedule and get to City Council by January. So I would leave that to you all to decide. That's why those comments were provided to you, and then we can, Travis and I can help answer those questions about maybe the specific comments that you are curious about.
Thank you very much. That's helpful for guiding our conversation tonight. So I would like to step through a few of those comments, but I'd be happy before we start to entertain any other general comments from my fellow commissioners.
It's just questions for staff right now.
Are there any other questions for staff at this point from commission members, commissioners? Seeing none, I believe we can move to this next discussion item. This will be public comment on the strategies document as presented for the public. Are there members of the public this evening who would like to comment? Mr. Metzger, sir. And please introduce yourself, of course. Not everyone knows you
Yeah,
as well as I
yeah.
do.
Matt Metzler, 1110 Friar Creek Drive. Greetings, commissioners, and I wanted to thank you all and to thank Travis and city staff for all the excellent work you did on the climate action strategies. I read the agenda packet for tonight's meeting with great interest, and I have many thoughts and comments that I'd like to share. Just for those who don't know, I served for 5 years on the Community Services and Environment Commission, and there are many items in the climate action strategies that were discussed and approved over the years by the CSEC, but never implemented. Therefore, I have one overall recommendation for the commission. I urge you to recommend that the City Council adopt climate action strategies. Do I have reservations regarding some of the specific details? Yes. Are their strategies perfect? No. However, I think that the most important thing that could result from tonight's meeting would be for this commission to be decisive and take action. The climate emergency has been discussed and debated by the City Council and commissions ad nauseum. Now is the time for action and for a plan to be implemented. I have many reservations regarding the climate action strategies. These are detailed in the many public comments. I echo a lot of the public comments included in your agenda packet. I'm especially concerned about the document's lack of attention to social equity. However, the charts in the agenda packet demonstrate that most of our GHGs, our greenhouse gas emissions, come from transportation. And incentivizing people not to drive gas-powered personal vehicles, I think, is the most important action that the city could take. That's why I want to see the bicycle parking and infrastructure built ASAP as the Community Service and Environment Commission approved years ago. I have one major question regarding transportation, which is why wasn't parking addressed in the document? I know this is political death for city council members, but I think that the abundant free parking around the plaza incentivizes driving. I would like to encourage all of the commissioners and the city staff to familiarize themselves with the books, The High Cost of Free Parking by David Shoup and Paved Paradise, How Parking Explains the World by David Graeber. These books detail and give great detail about why free parking creates traffic and encourages people to drive. We have so much free parking in Sonoma, and I wonder, when I see the traffic all circling the plaza looking for a place to park on weekends, how many of those people are people who live close or staying lodging close enough that they could walk or bicycle but drove instead? So I still want to encourage the commission to be decisive and take action. I look forward to the implementation of the recommended climate action strategies. And thank you for your service as commissioners.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you for your service as a former commissioner. Are there other public comments this evening? Anyone from the Ethernet?
There are currently no hands raised on Zoom.
All right. And seeing no other public comment moving forward, I believe we can close public comment. This then takes us to the next step, which is the discussion among the commissioners about the Climate Action Strategies Plan. Are there comments, concerns, items to be raised by my fellow commissioners at this point?
I'll step up to the plate here first. So I have to be honest, I have been seeing so many drafts of this document over the last couple of years, and I share this I'm sure I share this with Travis. It's hard to, I can't say that I am intimately familiar with its current version. I haven't read it as carefully as I would if it was just presented to me for the first time. So I'm kind of dependent on some of you, for example, Mr. Metzler and others, who have a fresher reading of it, to help guide some of my thinking about it. In my review preparing for tonight's meeting, I took the public comments that are in our packet to help me along in that. So I'm going to probably be biased toward listening to those public comments more than my own initial critical thinking about the drafted plan in front of us tonight. For me, the comments of Mr. Metzler just now, that's the key question we have in front of us. Do we continue to deliberate on making a perfect plan, a more perfect plan, or do we try and present something to the city council that, with all of its flaws, and is a ready, fire, aim approach to move forward? I'm inclined to agree with Mr. Metzler, and I think the community is expecting that of us, having waited so long, and I think the council's probably waiting for that as well. And I get that sense too from our conversations with other commissions in the past couple of weeks and months. So, another comment that popped out for me though was the question, is this plan, are the goals in this plan and the goals that we've set for ourselves in the climate resolution, is it simply aspirational? Do we really have confidence that we're going to be able to hit the climate emergency resolution goal of net zero by 2030? Mindful of the fact that transportation emissions are representative of approximately 66%, according to last inventory, of our greenhouse gas footprint. I can't say that I have that confidence right now in this plan. And I feel that, I mean, there may be others that do feel they have that confidence, and I would love to hear that. But I don't personally have that. And I understand the fact that we have new staff, we have momentum. It's hard for the staff. I totally understand we can't commit to making wildly disruptive or transformative recommendations to the council without having a deeper basis of understanding of what those impacts might be on our city and whether we have the resources to back up those things. So I'm aware of the challenges of staff in getting us to this point. But I do want to be realistic in what we present to the council. And so I'm curious if anyone has any input, any fellow commissioners have any input on that question about, is the plan, the strategy and the plan proportional to the aspirations that we have set for ourselves, that the council has set for us?
Thank you, Tom. Excellent comments. I will surprise no one hearing that I have a number of comments, but I really want to hear first from my fellow commissioners this evening before I open my concepts further. Next. Yes, sir. Alan.
I thought that the discussion we had about doing from Weinberg, from some sort of having parking around Weinberg to release and reduce the parking around the plaza. And maybe it's in here, but I wasn't able to see any of that. It looks to me like the future wasn't really addressed here. It's all more just status quo kinds of world and improving the status quo. Also, I tried to push the streetcar concept a bit, and I obviously had no success with that. It's not even mentioned in here. So that's you know, the whole streetcar thing is a very complex and expensive thing to do, but there's funding to do not only construction but operations, and I think it's an opportunity that we're losing. And when I came to the commission, you know, I was all hot on that we are in an emergency, and the reception I got from the commission was lukewarm. And I think that these last 3 to 5 months that have hit us globally have really shown that that not only is Sonoma but the entire planet is in a climate emergency. So anyway, those are just my comments. Probably more of a vent than a comment, but that's what I've done.
Thank you, Alan. Vents as well as comments all merged together, and they're all welcome. Comments from other commissioners? Philip?
Thank you. Just to address Commissioner Conlon's comments, I don't view this, and I hope it is not viewed as the final document. And the way I mean that is, I'll give you an example. I'm extremely concerned about climate justice issues. What we've structured in the 100 pages that have been proposed cuts across economic and economic status, I think, very well. And we've got comments from people, from Mr. Allenbach, for example, Mr. Metzler, about considering social justice and economic justice issues. Tell us what we need to do. We need the input from you. If we've missed something that's important in that issue, it's important that we watch how progress is made on this 100-page document and make adjustments as we go along. Will we hit the mark in 2030? I certainly hope so. Probably it will not look like this plan in 2029. We will have adjustments that we will be making, will be more specific in areas. We have a short period of time. We have to be on it. We have to think about it. And we have to get input from people as to where the deficiencies are. Just don't tell us there's a problem with climate justice. Tell us what you would do to fix it.
Thank you, Philip. Amber, next.
I do feel like a lot of us are on the same general page about this, that it does feel aspirational to meet our goal by 2030. And tragically, when this emergency was first issued and the first iteration of this commission first began, it probably would have been a much more attainable goal. It's a bit harder now, but I mean, as if we were to continue to push this out and need a special meeting to decide on a new iteration of this evolving document, then we're just pushing ourselves further away from the goal. So it isn't perfect, but it is a good way for us to introduce what we want to present to the city. And these are initial goals, and the public have also decided that those are good initial goals, and those are good goals and this. So I feel like this document could be seen as more of a to-do list. Like, we get approval, check that off, okay, what can we add to it? We took that off, what else are we going to put there? So there is so much more work to be done, and I think we did a good job at hitting the central locations as well, where we're going to see a lot of co-benefits, where we're going to see a lot of the public migrating and seeing what we are doing to continue to garner interest and help us out with further ideas. So I just, like Mr. Metzler had said, we need to move forward with this. That's my opinion tonight.
Thank you, Amber. Very helpful. Kendall, yes, I was going to call on you if your red light didn't come on. Please proceed.
I agree with what Amber said. I think the plan is not perfect, and there are things that could be improved on, like including the social justice aspect. But I also agree that it's been so long, and we need to present something, because if we just keep pushing it out and pushing it out to make it better, we're not going to end up with anything. So I think we should follow through and improve it in the future and make adjustments.
Thank you. Tom, further comments?
Yeah, so I think that general sentiment is widely shared. I think that we heard Mr. Metzler say it first, and then the rest of us have more or less echoed it. So that gives me some confidence now in bringing a few specific questions up, that things we might do tonight to nip and tuck and maybe improve things a little bit. I'm going to try to prioritize these by so I'm looking at the list of my notes from the public comments. And given that transportation is such a big share of our challenge, I noticed that David Leland's comments in the packet were very specific. And he said under section 3.4, transportation, most of the actions really have no potential for greenhouse gas reductions. That's a pretty serious statement to be in our packet. And he identifies why is the master plan for, I guess, bike and pedestrian not identified as a priority. That was something that we talked about at the transportation ad hoc as an important matter. We brought it before the commission. You all, I think, echoed that, and we were authorized to make that message to the planning commission. And so I'm still pretty unsettled by that, and feel that given, we had initially started this process with asking for budget and working on budgetary ideas. There is no budget for us to work with specifically in this commission at this point. We know we're moving toward that hopefully in the next budget calendar. So I just want to have that cleaned up a little bit in my head at least, so I feel confident in making a recommendation for the plan to the council. The other thing on transportation that is on my list, I noticed Mr. Zimmerman, formerly with the Traffic Safety Committee, mentioned the need for traffic calming. He had a number of good ideas in that area in his note. And Ms. Bennett mentioning the need, the square should be for people, not cars, electric shuttle in lieu of a streetcar, support for that idea, which is in our list of items, and bike and walking paths. Those are things that she had mentioned as well. So those are the things I think on the transportation that popped out at me. Does anybody else have anything to say about transportation?
Can I? Thanks.
Please proceed. Community
So-
Development Director.
Yes, Community Development Director Jennifer Gates. So if you look on page 3, the first item is actually to prepare the master plan for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. We also are currently working on the active transportation plan, as you all know. And I did want to just let Commissioner Nickel know, while it's not called a streetcar, we do have electric shuttle, the downtown electric shuttle. It's a streetcar shuttle, something electric to get people around, and it is part of our parking management plan on phase 1 is to look closely at that. So it is a priority. I want to promise that it is a priority. It may not be a streetcar in the old streetcar sense, but we'll see what it looks like at the end of the day. But I did want to make sure that you guys do know that those things are in there. So as you're coming up, I'm Googling, or not Googling, but searching to make sure that they're here.
Can I ask her?
Huh?
When Jennifer's done.
I'm done. Go ahead.
When will the council be discussing this? Do you know?
The actual shuttle?
No, the report.
This report, our schedule right now is to go in January.
January? Okay.
Are there other commissioner comments?
Thank you, that's-
Before I unload my comments.
Okay, I'll just follow here. I mean, that is helpful.
That won't close it out, but that's
That is very
appropriate for the
helpful.
chair to wait.
I guess in my hasty preparations for tonight, I think that Mr. Leland was referring to, expand bike and pedestrian infrastructure. And the items right above it, it says items that appear in blue italics are the recommended priority actions. And the first action there, as you mentioned, is the master plan for bike and ped. It's not identified in blue italics. Is that just an oversight, or are you specifically saying it's not a priority even though we're already working on it? I'm confused by that.
Those items in blue and italics are what the commission voted as priority. That's why. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I think maybe I even brought this up in our preparatory staff meeting about this, that my understanding was that maybe we hadn't done that, and you went back and checked the tape to confirm that we hadn't formally done so. So, in my mind, this underway plan really is important. It really is its chief priority for the city. And it's been raised independently by Mr. Leland. And so I think I would like to ask for an amendment of putting blue italics on that first box. And I have it in front of me, as you don't, maybe I'll have it in front of you, but it says, expand bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure is our first categorical priority under transportation. And there are 4 other things that are prioritized. Expand publicly accessible EV charging, establish electric downtown shuttle, explore banning new fossil fuel filling stations, and explore banning new drive-through windows. And so I guess I'm asking for that first one, prepare master plan for bike and pedestrian infrastructure, to be similarly prioritized. Not yet a motion. I think we're going to make one motion at the end, but that would be my ask of my fellow commissioners on transportation.
So we'll come back perhaps in a little while to that as a potential motion. Am I hearing any other commissioner comments at this point on the draft plan being presented this evening? Oh, and let me load in a little bit with my comments. I would start by saying, a bit like Matt, I'm thrilled to be here wherever the hell we are, because we're finally here. I say this as someone who spent literally a number of decades in environmental action, not environmental planning. I'm reminded of having been asked as a faculty member at a university in New Jersey called Princeton to teach a course in urban planning, and my first lecture said, this is not a course in urban planning, it's a course in urban action. So this plan starts to move us toward action. We can't do any action until the city council has adopted a document, a loving, wonderful document called the Climate Action Strategies document. Once that's approved, we can begin to seek federal money, state money, local money. Various actions can begin to be taken that are consistent with the plan, both explicitly and perhaps with a little bit of intriguing elbow room as we move forward. And so I'm desperately eager to support the adoption of this plan by this commission this evening and its movement to the city council, which I hope will also agree to adopt the plan. And then, with a plan in place, we get serious about taking significant actions. The plan is a key to getting us underway. Without the plan, we'll continue to be chasing the actions of the Community Services and Environment Commission, on which I served, the Joint Commission with the Council, on which Fred Alabach and I served, frustration royal. So let's get a plan, move it forward, get 3, 4, or hopefully 5 votes from the city council in favor of this document, and then we begin to get really serious. In the process, I've been introduced to a number of very impressive plans, one in particular from Solano Beach, a nice city in northern end of San Diego County, a far better plan. I don't propose for a minute to hold us up to make a far better plan. I propose to get the plan moving, adopted, and then implementing a series of related actions. Some of the themes here are to underlie, in my view, citizen action, local community citizen action. This is not just intended to be a government plan for government action. It's a plan designed to engender public involvement, and citizen action across the board on many of these issues. We're in desperate need of parking actions, and the plan will allow us to move forward, hopefully, eventually, sooner rather than later, on parking actions. We may even be able to move forward with a variety of sanctions and incentives. That's called taxes. Suppose you had to pay on the plaza at a restaurant or a wine tasting $15 as a city climate incentive document. But if you came in an EV or even a hybrid, it's waived. There's a variety of things we can begin to do once we have an approved plan. We need to deal with parking. We need to deal with affordable housing as a climate justice issue affecting the ability of employees here in our town and nearby to live here and not commute in from further away, long distance away. The plan is consistent with that, and it will begin to introduce the kinds of social equity and climate justice issues that we're desperate to have. Electric mass transit is at least beginning, streetcar or not. It will reduce greenhouse gas emissions at the local and regional level. Eventually, this plan allows us to begin talking seriously about what does it mean to be a climate-smart tourist destination. How do we think about the future of our little city in terms of that role? And the plan will allow us to begin to get serious about that, to seek a major grant, to do serious thinking about what the hell does it mean to be climate smart 5, 10, 15 years from now. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with net zero by 2030? This plan as written won't get us there, not a prayer in hell. But it's a starting point, it's a movement forward as we deal with carbon sequestration effectively as well as greenhouse gas reduction effectively. And Commissioner Conlon's absolutely right. There's very little in the way of teeth here about transportation greenhouse gas reduction, but it's a starting point. So I would urge my fellow commissioners to join in the adoption of this plan and the enthusiastic support of this plan before the City Council. Thank you. Other commissioner comments before we move to a potential motion?
I have one more thing.
Yes, sir.
So, under buildings, again, Mr. Leland in his written comments noted that the carbon intensity of Sonoma Clean Power options versus PG&E options is an issue. And I've come across this myself recently, that the power content labels from our power providers, options in the city, PG&E, actually now has a lower carbon intensity electricity product in its default offerings than does Sonoma Clean Power. The city may recall back in 2016, I think, we were the first city to make a municipal decision to purchase 100% evergreen power. That is not the default Sonoma Clean Power product, but the upgraded product for an extra half cent, I believe, per kilowatt hour. But most customers throughout the city are on the default Sonoma Clean Power option. And the new power content label shows that Clean Start is now using 16.4% biomass energy as part of our default portfolio. That plus that's technically a renewable source, even though we know biomass energy produced in the facilities we're buying it from is very polluting, including carbon pollution, because it takes a long time for those trees to grow back. In the short term, it's very polluting, carbon. And then the other thing is the default portfolio has about 8% of our emissions, or our electricity is procured from unspecified sources. So that could be coal, it could be coming from out of state. Nobody really knows where that power is coming from. It's just system power that we take credit for purchasing here. So the result is our power is actually dirtier for most customers in Sonoma than PG&E's default power would be. That I consider to be a significant issue. I'm not sure it's something we want to change the plan tonight to talk about, but it was in David's comments, Mr. Leland's comments, and it's something I've been thinking about here on our building decarbonization, which has frankly to date been one of the most successful sectors in our city's trend toward reduced emissions. And then, is there anything we want to say about parking? I've heard some, we did actually talk with the Planning Commission about this. We did mention parking. We know that the staff is committed to working on this over the next couple of years. We know the City Council is aware of it as well. Do we feel the need from this commission to, how do we phrase it in the plan right now, the need for parking? I know, Chair Morrell, you made some mention of the plaza and parking. Are we comfortable with the way that sits in the plan right now?
I'm not comfortable with where we are with parking. There is a parking strategy underway with the city that the Community Development Director may wish to share some more of her thoughts on in a moment. But I think the plan that's presently gives us the ability to move forward and to deal in future meetings of this commission and in future pressure with the council and in future accessibility of a variety of federal, state, and other grant programs to begin to deal sufficiently with these issues. The clock is ticking, and my take is not to amend this document, but to move it forward and then keep putting pressure on for specific action items. Jennifer, further comments that you'd like to make about the current city effort on the parking plan, the parking concepts that are moving forward at the moment with your consultant?
Sure. So the parking management plan was accepted by the city council to move forward with phase one. Phase one is looking at basically how do we manage our parking through time limits, location of that parking. The aspect or the idea behind the metered parking is phase two. That's if phase one does not move forward to meet the desired outcomes that city council has. That does not mean that in the future, as things come up and you're aware of them, or if we bring them to you, that the commission as a whole can provide letters of support to the city council on certain items. You may or may not know the parking standards have been modified and the number of parking spaces have been reduced for certain uses already by the Planning Commission this year. The Planning Commission is also looking at other things around parking. Requiring bicycle parking now is also part of the changes that we've made recently. So parking is already in the works. I don't necessarily, it's up to you all if you want to add it in some form or fashion, but it is in the works. As far as the energy concerns in clean power versus the PG&E option, that is something that you could easily make as part of your modifications, is that we don't call out a specific program but actually look at the programs and what offerings there are. So part of where we put that direction on that recommendation was around incentives, to incentivize people to participate. And so it's not necessarily one's better than another at this time, but we could look at what that means and what incentives are available by those independent agencies.
And certainly incentives to move to evergreen power from the Sonoma Clean Power System would alleviate some of the concerns of Commissioner Conlon over some of the mix of cogen power that's coming in now to the baseline Sonoma Clean Power System. It's a very small percentage of number of of meters. Travis and I got documents that look at the number of meters rather than residential and so on, but the number of meters that are associated with Evergreen are still a small number, and some powerful incentives could move us rapidly forward, and that would truly save some greenhouse gas emissions, if not in the city, certainly related to actions of city people.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify. So when we look at B2, that's the item around the energy, it specifically says that we're starting in calendar year 2024, we're going to initiate energy efficiency events and initiatives to increase energy conservation and efficiency practices by residents and businesses. That's the main goal. It does specifically say in one location where we call out explore incentives for residents and businesses to upgrade the electricity to Sonoma's Clean Power's all renewable evergreen program specifically. It doesn't say anything else around other products or programs at this time. And I think we want to, I think Travis is very good about looking at lots of different things and just providing people information, leading the horse to the water, shall we say?
Thank you, and that's adequate, I think, for my concerns. It's in there. We are promoting Evergreen, the better environmental benefit outcome offering. We are not providing any incentive for the default product that is not keeping up. And I happen to know too that our city council member who represents our city on the Sonoma Clean Power Board is well aware of these concerns. The biomass concerns have been raised. I don't know that the concern about the default portfolio, which is not all, so the emissions factor associated with the default portfolio is all, I don't know that she's aware of all of that, but definitely aware of the biomass issues now, and the board has discussed this extensively. The Sonoma Clean Power Board has discussed this extensively in the last couple of meetings. So, and we have some assurances that they will not be renewing those contracts in 2020, after 2024. So I don't see a need to change our plan tonight to address this issue, so I appreciate you flagging that in section B2. Just a few more, flag a few more comments, just because I've been focused on building and energy, but we had good comments from the public in a couple of other areas, and I just wanted to, into the record, acknowledge that Mr. Zimmerman's talk about expanding the leaf blower ban to other gas-powered landscaping equipment. I think that's been something that other jurisdictions have included. I haven't revisited this issue in many years. Just noted that seems like something worthwhile. Mr. Alabach raising the environmental justice concerns. I'm not sure that a standalone element for our climate action plan is the best approach to this, but I do share his concerns, and I think he's been pretty effective lately in getting the concept in front of decision makers. The other concept that he does put in here in his comments has to do with what he calls the alpha GHG producers. And those of us who are privileged enough to have the ability to spend money on things have to be more conscious, I think, of what the impact, the environmental greenhouse gas impacts of those expenditures result in. So that's something I'm going to be looking forward to discussing with all of you and the community over the next couple of years. But I don't see a need to change the plan tonight to do that. And then Mr. Donnelly raises the issue of tree planting, and that's something we support here. The last thing, though, is that we don't want to get stuck in creating just an illusion of progress, which is a phrase that came out of Mr. Bernhout's letter. And I think we all need to be mindful of that. We aren't just standing here to say we're doing something and then, 2030 hits, and we're far short of our goals, and the only way to get to our goals is to have pandemics, geographical collapse scenarios. So that's my long-winded comment.
Thank you so much for Commissioner Conlon. Other commissioner comments at this point on the plan? Looking left, looking right, not seeing any. I would at this point entertain a motion from a commissioner to approve the draft plan for its forwarding to the Sonoma City Council for its review and approval.
So moved.
Thank you, Philip. Is there a second that I would hear for such a motion?
I second.
Amber, thank you. At this point, do we go to public comment on this at this point? No.
Roll call.
No. Roll call vote on the motion as presented and seconded. And the motion, would you articulate, sir, the exact motion?
Subject to
have me
your
do so.
correction of my motion, I move that we accept the draft of the, wait a minute. Thank you. I got it. Of the draft climate action strategies with one revision, that is to put blue italics around Mr. Conlon's concern at, what was the number, Mr. Conlon? It's E3, expand bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure as a priority item.
Is that phrasing appropriate to the seconder?
I
In
still
the
second.
master plan.
Still second. So we have a motion and a second. I believe we're now going to a roll call vote on this motion. Matthew?
Commissioner Heinerman,
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ward,
Aye.
Vice Chair Conlon,
Aye.
and Chair Morrell.
Unanimous. Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all. I need eyeglasses now to proceed. Get old enough, you get illiterate. So we've now finished the regular calendar item, and I believe, if I'm understanding correctly, we're now on to agenda item 4 in the Brown Act agenda. Members' reports and comments. We can start with any commissioners who have comments this evening more generally. Tom?
I talk a lot, don't I? Sorry.
No.
I have just a couple of things here. First of all, I was reviewing the Vision Zero presentation on the active transportation plan to that Vision Zero Action Committee, countywide committee earlier today, and submitted some comments back to them because I didn't get to attend the meeting this week. But asking them for a more proactive vision statement. And in searching for one, I found that the California Air Resources Board in the 2022 scoping plan has come up with a really good one. And, you know, the state of California, under the Air Resources Board, has set a goal of reducing vehicle miles traveled by 25% by 2030. That they've basically looked at the numbers and said, even if we electrify everything in the transportation sector, we still can't get to our greenhouse gas reduction goal if we keep driving around in circles. So their phrase is to, let's see if I can find it. Should have highlighted it here. Their vision is to I'm going to have to park that because I can't find it in what I printed out here. So just to flag that matter to the and that is in Appendix E of the scoping plan. So very useful document for city and local jurisdictions to consider. And then the other thing that popped across my desk this week is we have new data out, county level data, on daily vehicle miles traveled. And it's quite shocking. We actually, since the pandemic, vehicle miles traveled is down dramatically in Sonoma County, more than we would have expected. A lot of us thought that the pandemic was a one-time blip, but apparently in the spring of 2022, we were using cell phone data to do this. Countywide vehicle miles traveled declined 4.2% from 2017 to 2022. So if you think about that, I think of it as a post-pandemic effect, that we stop going to the office as much. I know my own Sierra Club meetings, we don't meet in person every month. We meet quarterly now in person, and we try to carpool more than we did before. It's a little more intentional in the way we get around. I think a lot of people quit their jobs in places. There's been a lot of quiet quitting going on. Work from home is increased. So that gives me some optimism that maybe these vehicle mile travel reductions are attainable. Frankly, was surprised to see that, and I think the data is actually, I haven't dug into it or heard county's presentation. It's going to be in the Board of Sonoma County Transportation Authority's presentations in the next couple of weeks. But that was I think, optimistic news for everybody to hear. And then the third thing is that we have a workshop coming up there at the Transportation Authority on November 14th. That will be on the 2025 Active Transportation Program Branch Workshop. And so this is the California Transportation Commission coming to Sonoma County, bringing staff down here to talk about their what they're doing at the state level and how they can help us here at our county level to do this. So I know those are priorities of ours, and we just reaffirmed that tonight, so I just thought I should bring those to your attention.
Thank you for that broader perspective of some of the countywide and even statewide CARB activities. Other commissioner comments to share? Alan, please.
Yes. You know, Europe has half the automobile deaths as the United States in terms of combining things together. And it's due to the fact that they have a viable rail system, and which we do not have. And so this is one of the reasons that I'm trying to recreate in my dreams here a viable rail system that is, you know, of course the problem is that climate change may get us in the end anyway, and you know, but we should try. And there's so much money that's there for that. So because it's a safety, we're killing 50,000 people every year with the automobile. I mean, if we were killing 50,000 people in airplanes, we wouldn't be flying.
Thank you, Al. Other commissioner comments this evening? Seeing none, I would share a couple of thoughts of mine that I think give us an interesting insight into what's possible as we move forward with this, hopefully by City Council adopted plan that the Climate Commission here has adopted this evening after all of the work with CSEC and the Joint Committee and everything else that Commissioner Metzler, former Commissioner Metzler and I fully are aware of. Wearing my hat, the other hat, which is with the Sonoma Ecology Center, I would share with you and with the public some things that give you an idea of what the city can eventually and soon do, perhaps jointly with the Ecology Center, perhaps independently. The Ecology Center has worked with La Luz to develop funding through the Environmental Justice Program of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for major actions in the springs that are ecological and environmental in focus. The Ecology Center is essentially backstopping La Luz as its ability to manage a $1 million EPA-funded environmental justice grant. That's quite exciting. Secondly, the Ecology Center has received recently, within the last month, the contracts are finally signed, a $2.4 million, 2 grants from CAL FIRE for schoolyard greening in disadvantaged schools, including 4 in the most disadvantaged Hispanic areas of Santa Rosa. We were unable, we being the Ecology Center, to get a focus on the springs directly, but that lies in the future, and it's the kind of thing that the city of Sonoma, working with the school district, could be pursuing these kinds of grants, which are focused highly on disadvantaged areas, but provide massive amounts of schoolyard greening, which is a very important program. And third, and a sort of another example of all of this, for a different CAL FIRE funded project at the Ecology Center, has about 1,000 trees available for planting, finding difficulty in the Bay Area and getting communities and locations to plant them. They need to be in disadvantaged communities, but I've reached out to Public Works here in the city, and they're considering some areas along the bike path and areas that are kind of close up to the county line in the springs that may qualify for the disadvantaged rules of CAL FIRE and to get free trees. So these are the kinds of things that can come forward for us as examples. There may be others of what's possible as we move forward with an adopted climate action plan. We're now turning, any other commissioner reports and comments? Seeing none, I will close item 4 and open item 5, staff comments and announcements on the agenda.
Well, I want to say congratulations. We did rename it Climate Action Strategies because it's more about the actions right now, and there is more of a plan needed to reach the 2030 goal. We all are in agreement, but as we discussed a lot, it's about moving us forward at this time and getting over an initial hump and then moving forward more. So again, just to reiterate, the idea is that we're setting a baseline now. We have, we're looking at these small changes that we can make and starting to measure what that impact could be. We are also, and this is the most important part of it, is that we are undertaking a general plan update right now. So that is a whole section that's going to be on climate change and sustainability. There's also going to be woven throughout the whole document environmental justice, which is both social justice and economic justice, all aspects. That's why we're going to weave it throughout the document and making sure there's equity built. We are looking closer at what defines disadvantaged, etc., but not, I would say, disengaging from that just because it may be outside of our city boundary. we are limited by our sphere of influence on what we can plan for, but I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. So with the general plan, we did have our first meeting on November 2nd. We had about 30 attendees, which was pretty good. And we had some great participation by the public. And that information is available online, that presentation, as well as a PDF document. So if others that weren't able to participate want to continue to participate, they can submit their responses to those activities online. That email blast will go out from the city shortly. But just as a reminder, if you just go to the city's website and just type in general plan, you'll get a link to the webpage that has more information. The second workshop is going to be next Monday at 6 o'clock, and I invite everybody to attend. This is, really going to be needed comments from everybody. We want everybody to participate. So I am reaching out to different entities, agencies, organizations, etc., to offer up mini workshops, mini presentations to gather input from different focus groups or different interest groups. And so that is something that is on the table, that if other interest groups are interested, I am willing to come and talk and focus on what their specific interests are. We are going to be doing this part, this I would call phase 1, which is all about the visioning and looking at what our current aspects of our community are through the end of January. So we have another couple of months in which we're gathering input. Lastly, there is a community survey out there. Again, that will be sent out through our e-blasts that we do. And hopefully everybody participates in that as well. So I will rephrase. It's not a survey, it's a questionnaire. So it's just asking some questions about thoughts and feelings about living here or working here in the Valley. So with that, I concludes Saf's comments.
Thank you, Jennifer. Very interesting. I believe that brings us to the final item on the official agenda called adjournment. So I thank everyone for an exciting meeting, a milestone meeting, having come in the city of Sonoma a long way with this climate action strategies idea. We now have an officially adopted document approved by this body and moving toward the city council, hopefully for their acceptance. So thank you all for reaching this milestone, and good evening.